It's my pleasure to be here, and I certainly have enjoyed working with the very talented group that we had over this past, I guess, a little over a year. I'm going to speak generally about online voter registration, but then I'm going to show you what we've done in Vermont. First off, I want to start off by saying that online voter registration is not a red state, blue state issue. It is currently in 28 states. It shortens the time for UOCAVA voters, and that's a key because now UOCAVA voters are able to register almost instantly online, anywhere they are, anywhere in the world where they have access to the internet. It increases access for voters. It reduces errors with more accurate information. It saves time and money for both state and local officials. And it provides common data formats, which I think is really key in a lot of the information that we have. We're such an information-driven society today, and a lot of the times the information we get is not clean. It's not common, and this really helps in that. I'm also fighting a cold, so excuse me if I start coughing. They'll all back away from me. If your state does choose online voter registration, you should be able to apply for absentee or early vote ballot. We recommend that. We recommend that it allow the voter to submit the request 24/7 anywhere they have internet access. It should be a responsive design. You should be able to use a PC, a tablet, or a phone. And one thing when you're actually having it developed and implemented that I'm going to recommend highly is to have it user tested. Not just, in our case, we not only tested it amongst our staff, but we also tested it with the 246 town clerks that we work with, and we also brought in a focus group of citizens to look at it as well to see that they found it easy to use. Essentially, it comes down to keep it simple, and I think that's the thing that we hear most often about the barriers is keep it simple. When we were going out to do this project, we were actually doing our complete elections management system. We had 5 separate modules previously. They were all different. They operated separately. Now we're on one system where everything can talk to each other. The information transfers back and forth. The report writing is much easier. And the access to the public is better as well. But what we did when we first started, which I think is a common mistake that is made throughout state governments across the country when they go out for a new IT solution, is the fact that they just want to do things the way they've always done it. And so they say, I want a system that allows me to do this. Instead of looking at all their business requirements, doing the analysis, looking at their processes, which I think are really key. And in our case, we took 12 months before we even went out for an RFP to make sure we did all the planning necessary going forward. Now, going forward here, what I'm going to do is show you what we've done in Vermont. We have 2 aspects of this that we set up. The first, on the online voter registration, it allows all eligible Vermonters to submit an application make an addition to the statewide voter checklist anywhere, anytime that they have internet access. We have that's the actual website right there. That the symbol below is actually the button for it. That's the main button. We also have an abbreviated button as well. That's the abbreviated button. It increases access. It reduces errors. It saves time and money, and it provides more accurate information and data formats. This is actually from the homepage of the election site, and you can see that you can actually access it straight from that button right in the middle, and that's just to show you that, and then we'll go right to the page. This is where you start, and on the bottom over on the left, you'll see this button says if you have a Vermont license, or PID, and on the right if you don't. And so there are 2 ways to go into it. You can do in Vermont, you have to answer the 3 questions. Are you 18? Are you a U.S. citizen? And are you a resident? And then you click to go forward. You fill out your personal information, and you'll notice on the left sidebar, you've got the tracking for it of where you are in the process. It continues to do your voter address. If you have a mailing address, it's different from your actual residence address, which we have a lot of in Vermont. You fill out your previous information if you were registered someplace else. And I just put this graphic up here because I want to show you the one on the right was actually what our form is currently, our written form. So if you're going to fill out a form, that's what you have to look at. And on top of that, as difficult as that looks, think about it when the clerk or the staff member is actually trying to input that data into the system, because those little lines are little lines, and people are writing their names and addresses in by hand, and sometimes it's not easy to read, and that's why the information gets messed up. On the right, you can see that's a summary of basically your data, and you can see the comparison between the two makes it so much simpler. Okay, so this is your summary. This is actually, now you go through the summary section where you're actually going to review everything that you've inputted so far to make sure it is correct. This is your registration certificate, your voter registration certificate. And then we go into what we call the My Voter page. In Vermont, I think it's similar to what Wisconsin has, but what we've done is we've set up a My Voter page, MVP page, and essentially what it does is it provides unique voter information. So it's tied directly to their district, to their town clerk. I'll show you here what it does. It increases the access for voters. I'm not going to read everything, you can see it, but that's the button right over on the right over here. And that button, we're actually starting to implement adding this button to any town that has a website that they maintain. They can set the My Voter page button up so their citizens can actually have access to it right from their websites. This is on our elections homepage. So this is what it looks like. And you can see at the very top, it says My Voter page. On the right is the name of the person. Down the left-hand column, I'm not seeing a red light here, laser light. But on the left-hand side, you can see where that's your personal information. That red button, you can click on that if you need to edit your information in any way. It tells you what your House and Senate voting districts are. Down below in the left corner, you can actually see where your polling place is. You can click on that green button and actually get a Google map or Google directions on how to get to your polling place. It also will list what the hours are for your polling place. Up on the right, the upper right corner, this is for the app. You can actually submit a claim for an absentee ballot. And that box, well, I think we have it here, so let me just, okay, that's for if you want to make any changes to your data. So if you're requesting an absentee ballot, there's several ways you can do it. One is you can do it for the year, or you can do it by election. So we'll have each of the elections listed. You check off which ones you want, and we'll send that information out to you. Going back to this, you can see in that the box on the upper right will list the date that you requested your ballot, the date that it was sent out by the town clerk, the date that the town clerk receives it back, and what the status of that ballot is. So it's our tracking system for the ballot. And then in the lower right corner, you can get to the election night reporting site. You can actually get a sample ballot. This is your town clerk's name, address, phone number to contact them. So we're really excited about this and as we go forward. You can print your registration certificate whenever you need it. We have it barcoded as well. You can check your registration status. When you come into it, you can actually check your registration status to determine whether you are indeed registered in Vermont. And if you're not, you can click right over and go in and register. So this would be the result of your check status. The top box would show that, yes, you are registered. Here's where you're registered. The bottom one says, no, you have no registration in Vermont. In any case, we have found it so far. We implemented this as of October 12th, and what we have found is since then, with very little push, with just doing some social media, we're almost up to 800 online voter registrations, and we're getting nothing but positive comments from people. The one problem we did have, it had to do more with the data that we received from the town clerks, and that is when a town, sometimes when a town has a different data format from the one that they're using was different than one we were using, and we've tried to correct most of that, but we've had a few that slipped through, but we've been able to pretty much clean that up, and we're really pleased that we're able to get this thing up and running this year before the 2016 election actually gets going, but we're looking forward to going into next year.
Question one, securing the credibility and the integrity of the registration and the individual that has registered. How do you ensure that Kim can't register as Jim Condos? That's number one. Second part of that has to do with the participation for the local communities, counties, municipalities. So if you'll answer the first question, and I'll ask the second one.
Sure. First of all, it's no different than what you have currently with paper. So with what we're doing, though, on a first time, if you're a first time registrant in this, registrant to Vermont, there is a provision to upload your driver's license or a utility bill, whatever. We basically are following the HAVA mandate that for mail-in registration.
So you use the driver's license as the primary?
Well, driver's license, PID. It doesn't have to be. Doesn't have to be a photo ID. It doesn't have to. It can be a driver's license. It can be a PID. It can be a social security, your last four digits of your social.
But if they don't have a driver's license, then they could register
utility bill.
Utility bill. But if they didn't have a driver's license and they used a utility bill and Kim knew your address, then what would prevent that fraudulent registration from occurring?
I don't think I quite follow what you're
saying.
Okay,
let me just tell you. You live at 123 Main Street. She lives in the southern part of the state, but she knows you live at 123 Main Street. So she registers for you. Then she votes for you. How are you going to prevent that from happening? I understand how you do it with the driver's license because there's only one Jim Condos with that. There may be 5 Jim Condos with your name, right, with your birthday, but there's only one with your driver's license number.
Correct, and we do it on a nightly basis. We're bouncing off of the DMV on a nightly basis, so we're getting information. We get exception reports from them if there is any problem with any of the data that we have.
But if they don't have a driver's license, the DMV is not going to have them on record. So what's your security mechanism in place for an individual that wants to register electronically?
Well, this is an affidavit, so if you sign this, you're doing it under pains and penalty and perjury. So you're subject to a 15-year, a $10,000 fine or a 15-year sentence, and that's. We find that is really a red herring issue. We don't see that as being an issue at all. And I think going forward, going across the country, you're going to find that that's the case. I think this whole issue, the real true voter fraud from my standpoint, John, is those eligible voters who are denied access to their ballot for some reason when they're eligible. And they're denied. That's a bigger problem than people who are signing up for somebody else. Well,
and you haven't had your first incident of election to occur yet because you just started this October 12th. So, Kim, I know you want to say something.
I would just add, so Washington has had online registration available since 2008, 4, 6, a while. I believe 8. We went live with our state database in '06 and live with online registration since '08. And to answer your question, John, to do it online, they either have to have a Washington driver's license or ID card. So we have a very high confidence level with all of our online because they walked in to an agency and everything. So that secondary ID, they actually have to give that utility bill with the actual address. But we're also sending a confirmation notice to the voter. What we have seen, though, is the vast majority of our registrations are either coming through motor voter or online now. Very few are paper, and very few, I would say a couple percent, are coming through with an alternative ID. The vast majority either have a last four of their social or their driver's license, and that has been an exponential increase in terms of that security and that confidence. So we're not, at least in my state, we're not seeing any kind of real fraud, rampant fraud either way, either on the side Jim was talking about or on people registering that weren't eligible.
Jim, the second part of the question just dealt with municipalities and counties, and what if you had a clerk or a local election official that did not want to participate in sharing that information with you? Does your staff actually do that work and upload that data on behalf of that voter or those constituents in that area? Or are you at the mercy of the local official?
What happens with our online system is it automatically determines where the district is and sends it to the clerk. They have a dashboard that they have on their computer that actually it pops up on, and they have to approve it to be added to their checklist. So that it's kind of you got a little bit of a check there from the town clerk's office. We have 246 town clerks. We did 8 training sessions, 3 days each, for this new system, and they were really excited about it because they see it as really saving them a lot of time, and that's the buy-in part. That's where working with your town clerks. We don't have county government, so we just ignore that part of it. But we have 246 town clerks, and we worked really diligently. I think only 3 of the 246 did not make one of the 8 sessions, and we're actually going to meet with them individually to try to ensure that they go through. Plus, in Vermont, our state law in Vermont requires clerks to do every 2 years to do an election training session through the Secretary of State's office.
And Secretary Merrill, if I could also address your question about online voter registration very briefly, is that I like to speak to it using the words that it's an online voter registration application in the same way that a paper form is an application for registration. You just have the voter themselves keying in the data rather than a clerk. So the data is all being processed the same way once it hits the system. So all security checks are the same as you would have with a paper form as well. So whether a clerk in the office is keying it in and it's then bouncing against the Department of Motor Vehicles or the last 4 of the socials being checked, those security protocols are all being done in much the same way, and in most cases exactly the same way. So it's not that the voter is able to go in and automatically put their name onto a voter registration list. It still, in some cases, has an individual physically looking at every application to make sure it's the same. Other places do data matching before it goes onto the true voter list. And in Arizona, which was the state that began online voter registration where I was from, we've had it since 2002, and there have been 0 cases of any sort of malfeasance or someone obtaining another. And I don't think you'd be able to speak to an elections official anywhere in this country that hasn't seen a crazy paper form. So I think that the security measures are there also because most of the systems are such that you have to have information like a driver's ID number or this other information that bounces against the system, in fact, in order to even submit the application. So all the states that have seen it have had that same experience.